Welcome to Falcons Drip, your go-to source for Falcons news and draft coverage. I'm Thon, founder and voice of Falcons Drip. Welcome back, everybody, to Falcons Drip Radio. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Kyle. Second episode of the week. We are going into Bengals week. I believe that the last episode we kind of went over what happened to the Dolphins, and today we're going to go over just a little bit of news and then talk about some of the matchups we're looking forward to against the Bengals on Friday at 7:30 in the Dome.
Yep. So we're super excited for this, and we've gotten reports that the Falcons are apparently going to play starters. So it's not going to be bench guys all game. And we have some news coming out. We had cornerback Blesson Austin get signed by the Falcons. He's been with the Falcons organization before, where he was in minicamp 1 year for them. But he's never made the team for them. Former 6th-round pick, played on the Jets, as well as a couple other teams. So he's got pretty good experience, and there's also statistics out there for him that if you're looking at completion percentage allowed in his snaps he's gotten, it's top half of the league for corners. So pretty good statistics. Not a crazy amount of reps. I believe he's played 17 out of 29 possible games he could play. So maybe a full season worth of work out of him.
Good depth player. It comes also too with Mike Hughes getting hurt. Said couple of injuries, but Arthur Smith said day to day for most of them, and he's sure that they'll be back at some point soon.
Yeah, and a really interesting thing is Ryan Neusel.
That's my boy.
Is currently our starting center because Hennessy and Dahlman are out. And he's played terrific at the position in preseason game, and he showed the ability to do it, and he seems to be in front of Gwynn for earning that backup center role going into the season.
Yeah, Neusel out of Appalachian State was a UDFA 2 years ago now. Can't remember his
I know he's been with the Falcons the whole time since coming out, and he's been terrific for them, making the practice squad and coming up and making some plays for them when he needed to and filling gaps if he needed to. So just a player I love to see constantly making this roster and constantly improving to where he's a capable player, a capable backup. Maybe at some point in his career he becomes a capable starter, but right now he's a capable backup and replacement interior offensive lineman, as he can play guard and center.
And let's see what happens, because I love 6'3", 300 pounds, pretty athletic guy. So let's see. If Dwayne Ledford has had his has had his claws into this guy for a couple of years now, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him be able to play for us. And obviously, Dahlman's the guy right now, but I could see a world where Dahlman comes back and if he's not playing well, then they have no problem throwing Neusel in the lineup.
Yeah, he also leans into his name on Instagram, making a joke out of it. I don't know if many of y'all have seen it, but his Instagram bio is Instagram handle is news_flash. So that's a pretty cool username.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So definitely has a little bit of a sense of humor. Then we also had the news about Frank Darby getting waived with an injury designation. What this means is he's probably, if no team claims off waivers, is he's going to go to the injured reserve for the Falcons. And that is currently what we're expecting. We expect him to go to
same
the
thing.
IR. And we also learned that Chris Blair was waived after going on the IR. So that's interesting. So that probably means he's gone, and maybe they're going to put Frank Darby in his place on the IR.
Probably to what happened with Felipe Franks this year. And also too, this has happened with Frank before, where he's been cut and then they bring him on the practice squad. Like, in order to make some of these moves, you have to be cut first. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. It is possible he gets picked up by another team. I'm not banking on it. Typically, teams also don't pick up injured players. So I fully expect we're going to find out tomorrow. By the time you guys are listening to this, probably Frank's probably still back on the team. And if not, if not, I'm going to look like a real fool when you guys listen to this. But I totally expect. I'm not worried about it at all.
And I hate to change the subject completely, but I've gotten some news. So Michael Walker earlier today got claimed from the Falcons by the Bears after being let go, and he's going to be wearing number 46 for them.
Okay. I'm glad for Michael. I don't, do we talk about him getting cut already?
Oh, I talked a little bit about it on the end of the show because it
That's
happened
right.
after the
After we
podcast
recorded.
recording. But
So,
we'll just go into it real quick.
so just really quick,
He
like
was
I'm not.
cut, and Frank Gidna was the USFL Player of the Year with the Michigan Panthers was signed. He's a 26-year-old linebacker, 6'1", 225, 104 tackles, 3 picks, 1 sack last year. He's out of San Jose State. Looks like he has a strong chance of making this roster. He's going to be competing with the likes of um, Tay Davis, Mike Jones, and a couple others for that final spot.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Nate Landman's locked in as the
Yeah.
LB3. And I'll say this, like Michael Walker getting cut, it's a surprise, but at the same time, like not unexpected.
Mhm.
Showed a lot of flash plays, and I think it's difficult. For he's been in the league. This will be his fourth year. He's had different defensive coordinators and played different positions and different schemes. So it's not really totally fair, or maybe even all his fault. And I do expect that. Will he be a great player in the league? I don't know. He has the ability to be, but now for him to hopefully get in a system where he can stick to one position and figure it out, I mean that's what that's what he'll need. But the switching around, it's complicated, and so asking him to do that wasn't totally fair. He wasn't really set up for success. So
100%. He was one of the players from the previous regime, and I believe since him getting cut, it means there's like 9 players left from the previous regime or something like that. So a lot of this roster is this regime's players and their stamp on it. So I'm super excited to see this new regime with their stamp on it. Third season, we expect them to contend this year, and I think they showed that in their first preseason game. And Michael Walker, it's kind of not unexpected. I was talking about it with people like my dad. I was talking with him off air, and I was talking about the move with Frank Gidna, and I said, "Oh, Michael Walker could possibly get cut." Because it seemed like after a 31 graded PFF game, he was in a bad spot and
yeah,
looking to be maybe on the way out. And that's exactly what happened.
yep, yep. So all right, anything else that we should cover? Or is
So we had this is Kyle post recording. So I'm editing the thing and I realized there's a couple moves that came out after the fact of this podcast, including Ade Ogundeji going to the IR, Lacoby Tucker getting cut. He was a 6'9", 305 offensive lineman. He was a very intriguing prospect, but seems the Falcons don't think he has a chance to make an impact. The Falcons also signed Damon Harris to a contract, and also getting back to the point of talking about Gidna, the new signee, the USFL Player of the Year, who I briefly talked about last podcast, and we briefly mentioned here. I'll mention what the linebacker rotation at inside backer was for this week. You had Troy Anderson and Caden Caden Ellis being your first team linebackers, and your second team was Nate Landman and Tay Davis. Excuse me. And then your third team was Mike Jones Jr. and and Matt Gidna. So Gidna was rocking with the third team, so we'll see if he moves up eventually. But currently, he's a third team linebacker. But I expect him to be well within this race. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I'll also mention they have a linebacker like Andre Smith, who's also in the mix. Although I think he is kind of that one where you think he's the least likely out of the bunch. But overall, I'll also mention Falcons listed Gidna a little bigger than I thought he was. He was listed in the USFL at 225. He's been listed as 6 foot, 245 by the Falcons. So maybe he added some muscle and stuff. So I'm very intrigued to see what he looks like. So that's going to be it for the news and notes edit. And I want to thank you for listening, and I'll give it back to Thon.
Time to jump into the Bengals.
I think that's about it. Then we can get into getting people prepared for this Bengals game. I think people should definitely be excited because Desmond Ridder is reportedly going to get some run, and most of the starters will. I don't know if all of them will, but I know first team is supposed to go. Obviously, guys like Hennessy and Dahlman, they might be up in the air as they've been day to day lately. So we'll see if they're able to play in this game.
I hope that Kyle Pitts does not play. Like, let's get him back fully. Let's wait till I can wait till week 1 to see him. Like, let's get him back.
I think if you're gonna play him, you only play him for a series, maybe 2.
I honestly, I don't even. I want him just off the field. Like, we do not. That's kind of how I felt like with Julio Jones. Like, he does not need to play. He let his knee keep healing up, keep him. He's gonna do what he's gonna do, and he's too valuable, in my opinion. So,
I understand not playing him, but at the same time, as a counterpoint, he hasn't gotten reps with Ridder in game. So I think it's very important for him to get some reps in game with the starting quarterback. It was all because he's injured that he hasn't gotten those reps. But I think if you can get maybe even 1 series, maybe 2, even though that's not a lot of reps, it does give you a little bit of a feel and will hopefully help get them ready for game day so they'll be closer to the same page.
I don't disagree, but I don't want like his knee until they say he's fully 100%. Don't put him in there. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel. Like I totally agree. I'd like to see him get a couple of reps just in general. He doesn't need to be in there.
Mhm.
It would be nice. Obviously, it'd be a bonus, but let's let that knee heal up.
Yeah, for
I do
me, I
expect.
trust this regime. It's
Yeah,
like if they think it's worth putting him out there and having him go for maybe a series or 2 and get some reps, I think it's probably the right decision because this regime has seemed to make a lot of good choices and lead this team back to where they're actually considered to be a playoff caliber team this year.
Mhm. Um. So that being said, I do expect a little bit of Bijan. I would not be shocked, or Bijan, as he recently came out and said that everyone, including himself, has been saying his name wrong. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
that, but his
It's
mom.
funny because that means all the college commentators were saying it wrong.
Well, that's because he says it wrong. His mom gets mad at him because
Yeah.
it's awesome.
So
Um,
now people are trying to get used to it and trying to say it right now.
yeah, I probably won't change. I mean, if he's calling himself Bijan, then I'll probably stick to it. But um,
Hmm.
so let's just jump into some matchups here. And what matchup? We can go back and forth, maybe 2 each. What matchup are you looking forward to seeing?
Uh, I'd say I'm gonna go with one you're gonna like this one. I'm gonna go with Xavier Malone versus the Bengals cornerbacks.
Hmm, it's a good one.
This I think with Frank Darby being injured now, he's put himself in the driver's seat for this wide receiver 5 competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Penny Hart and guys like Matthew Sexton. lurking behind in the shadows, trying to show out and hopefully give him a run for his money to take that job.
You're absolutely right. And to see him in here, he he has a very legit chance to make this roster. Even he had a chance before Darby was hurt, and now with Darby being out, it really feels like him versus Ali, or Penny Hart also has been getting a lot of play in special teams, but we'll have to see. I mean, this is going to be a tight battle, and it's too bad to see Darby kind of go out that way. Um, I would say too, like for me, like one thing that I would be most likely to like my favorite thing that I would like to see in the best matchup is if Joe Burrow were to play. I'd love to see Joe Burrow versus Jessie Bates. Like those two guys who know each other really well. Like it would just be it'd be a fun storyline. It'd be fun to see. Obviously, we're not going to get that. So I will just say Jessie Bates against this offense. Like just seeing how he kind of competes against these guys. He knows them well. Let's see if he can make any splash plays. They also know him very well, right? So they know his tendencies and some of the things that he likes to do. So that's just a fun storyline, I think.
I like that one, but we're probably not going to get much of it. We might get a quarter of it tops. But that's a good one, and that's going to be one of the more well-known matchups going into the season. I'll go into a second one, and what I want to watch is the inside linebackers.
Mm.
And I'm not talking like the Nate Landmans, the Caden Ellises, like the Troy Andersons. We know what they are. We know they're probably locks for this roster or almost locks for this roster. I'm talking the Andre Smiths, the Mike Jones Jr., the Frank Gidna if he's playing, and all those guys to see who's gonna put themselves in a good position for this inside linebacker 4 spot. Is it gonna be Gidna? Is it gonna be Mike Jones Jr.? It could be any one of these guys right now. The two ones I'm thinking are probably higher up on that end is Frank Gidna and Tay Davis. Those are the two to probably watch for that job, with Mike Jones and Andre Smith lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that'll be fun. That's gonna be a fun competition to see. Again, it's anybody's game, so we'll have to see who kind of takes it. I would say for me, I think Tay. It kind of sounds like Tay Davis is kind of in the lead for like he's been running with the twos. So, but well, again, it doesn't mean anything right now.
Yeah, but Frank Gidna's just getting in, so it'll be interesting to see. He's obviously had a great year of production in USFL.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me to believe he's got a great chance in this. But it'll be interesting to see. Maybe I'm way too high on my expectations for him coming in. Maybe I'm way too low and he has this job easily, but I don't think he does. I think he's in a tough competition with 3 or 4 other linebackers competing for the job.
Um, so jumping into my second one that I'm really excited for. Again, I know we're not going to get a lot of it, but I'm excited for even one or two series. I'm very excited to see our starting defensive line against the Bengals starting offensive line, just to see Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett all out there at the same time. Like I'm just excited to see what it looks like. Even if it's like I said, even if it's for a drive or two, against the run, against the pass. I don't care who, you give me Bud Dupree or Buchetti, Lorenzo Carter. I don't care who the other one is. I know like that's a pretty tight battle right now. Is who's kind of the starter? Bud Dupree leaning towards being the starter. Uh, but I'm excited to see just what it looks like and what we could be seeing when the season starts.
This, I think this, what we're saying we're excited for, this just shows how talented the Falcons are. The fact that we didn't even mention the corners, we didn't mention the running backs yet. Both two talented groups that are very exciting to watch. So that just gives you a lot of hope for this Falcons team, seeing as those are two groups we like don't think about before thinking about some of these matchups.
I mean, that's a great matchup though. AJ Terrell against Jamar Chase slash T Higgins. It would have been better. I think my two. I think if Jeff Okudah was out there, I think we'd be looking more forward to it more, right? Like if it
Yeah.
was if you had Jeff Okudah on T Higgins and AJ Terrell on um, Jamar Chase, like I think that'd be something that we'd really be looking forward to. Speaking of corners, though, and I know we're not talking, I'm going off topic a little bit, which we love to do on this show. Apparently, Darren Hall has been getting some run with the twos and looked really good. So, which is interesting because I know the other day we were talking about how we barely saw him, which is not a good sign. So, I mean, if that's the case, like he's right back in the mix for this cornerback, this very strong cornerback room.
Yeah. You know who had kind of a rough game? Mike Hughes had kind of a rough game last week, so hopefully he'll look to bounce back, but he hasn't looked particularly great in the game action I've seen. Hopefully he'll bounce back, but he didn't look crazy good, but we've seen a big enough sample size to know he's better than how he played the first preseason game.
He also got hurt, so yeah, you have to wonder too, like when did he get hurt? Was he trying to play through?
Yeah.
Was he trying to play through it? Totally agree though. So
I'll definitely look to see that's something I'm looking to see. Does he improve and play better this week? Or if he plays the same exact way, I think he might be starting to push himself outside. If he has another rough showing, it could be
I'm
very bad for his outlook on this roster.
it'll be fun too to see Jalen Hawkins back there and just how he kind of controls that secondary, right? Like in the if he's the second if he's the third safety, I almost imagine like I kind of picture him taking over and like making the calls and those kinds of things in the secondary with that second group. So just kind of seeing him, the competition between him and Richie Grant is awesome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
man, this is gonna be fun. This is a fun preseason.
We'll get to see Heineke too, is what we're expecting. So we'll get to see hopefully the second team quarterback. We only saw Woodside last game, and Woodside looked great, but we'll get to see how much Heineke gambles and how his style kind of differs from some of the other quarterbacks in this room.
Yeah.
So talking about all this stuff, I expect another great showing from the Falcons. I don't know if it'll be as good as last game's showing. I think offensively it might be better, but defensively it might not be as good because that showing was insanely impressive for them.
Yeah. I again, let's say we go out with the starters and our starters dominate. I wouldn't worry about it because the Bengals have a good offense, but if Joe Burrow might not be playing, and if they go out and they get killed, right? Let's see how it happens because they've got some of the best weapons in the NFL. And it just kind of depends on, you know, just kind of depends on how it happens. Whatever happens, I wouldn't look into it too much. Is basically what I'm trying to say. It is preseason. Coaches don't call the same things that they're trying to call. Sometimes coaches call things just to see what it would look like and get burned on it. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. But I do expect a good showing also. I'll be looking into the most, and it's not really competition, but like got to keep an eye on Young Wei Koo. Like after missing 2 extra points, got to make sure that's not something consistent because, uh, you know, can't have this be a habit. Gotta
He
make sure
needs
that's
his number 7 back.
I know,
Number
seriously.
6 is bad luck. He can't make extra points. Number 6 is weird.
Maybe we've seen some number changes today with Jessie Bates going back to 3. By the way, he took number 3 before Walker was out of the building. Like that,
Yeah.
that was so fast.
It was funny seeing the pictures of him in practice the very next day. People were saying, I know your account, you posted a thing where you said, "Oh, I hope he takes number 3," and then we see photos from practice and he's wearing number 3. We're like, already?
Yeah. No
He
respect. It's
Michael
cold.
Walker just walked out the building and he's like, now he's got his number on. Now he
He was
stole his number.
Walker was packing up his locker and saw Bates running out with the number 3 jersey on.
Yeah. When
Um,
when Bates heard Walker was getting cut, he said, "Oh, let me run to the front office and get that number."
mhm,
That's what it seems like.
yeah.
But he did wear it in college at Wake Forest, so
Mhm.
no fault to him. It's a thing about getting cut, and if he wants that number, as a star player of this defense, he deserves to have that number.
And I'll say this to everybody who's upset because you bought a Jessie Bates jersey, shame on you. You should know
Yeah,
better. You do not buy numbers in the preseason. Do not do it. Don't do it until the season starts.
yeah,
You come in and there's when somebody gets picked up, there's 90, whatever, 50 to 90 people on the roster, and it goes back down to 50 by the time it's over. You have no clue who's going to be on the team by the time the season starts. You have no clue who's going to be on the team and who hasn't. Do not buy jerseys as a fan until the season starts.
yeah.
Wait till
And
after
jerseys
the
are
roster cut.
expensive. They're like
I know.
$100. So you don't want to buy a wrong number jersey
Mm-mm.
because you buy it so early.
Or if anything, go buy an old school jersey. Go get a Vic jersey. Go get a Matt Ryan jersey. Get a Julio Jones. Get a Deion
Yeah.
Sanders, Jesse Tuggle. Get throwbacks because that'll never go bad
Yeah. I think that's the way to go, the throwbacks.
for
Because
sure.
then you know you're not worrying about number because you know that's one of the legends that people are going to be like, nice jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think right now Julio and Matt Ryan are probably a little too soon. What's the number? Like how many years until it's cool to wear a Matt Ryan or a uh, a Julio jersey again, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
for a
I
while
I
you
don't
could
know. It'll probably be 10 years maybe.
10, you think? So
I think you gotta let it like
set.
it and you gotta let it become like history
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, this is like some golden era. And then you have people growing up and maybe they maybe were teens when it was happening and now they're 30s, 40s, and
Do you
they're getting to see, oh, I have this jersey from when I was younger. Let me continue to wear it. So maybe
you know
that's how it happens.
jerseys
We'll see.
has always been cool. Well, I shouldn't say always because there's a couple years it wasn't. But a jersey that's been really good for a long time, even after the player left the team, was Roddy White.
Yeah, Roddy White's always a good jersey to have.
Hmm.
You know what's another good one? Michael Turner.
Michael Turner,
Underrated one.
yeah, definitely underrated.
But there's always so many good players on this team, and it's so exciting to see. I know preseason we can't really make any predictions of uh what's going to go on with the starters and what stats they're going to record because to be honest, we don't know how long they're going to play. We
Hmm.
can just kind of watch the battles, and mostly that's watching the guys who are on the bubble for the 53-man roster.
Hmm.
This is the time of year where we're focusing on the guys who aren't the big time players, aren't the superstars. So it's super exciting to see, and I'm super excited to see this new and improved roster when it's all said and done, and we have all the players that are going to be on this opening day roster.
Yeah,
Um,
this team is so deep. I'm as excited to see who makes the battles at the end. I'm just as excited to see who makes the practice squad.
Same here. I'm always excited to see who makes the practice squad,
Mhm.
but this year more than ever because some of those guys are guys that I feel like could make good back end roster guys. The guys like the Clifford Chapmans, the Natrone Brooks,
Mhm.
the Micah Abernathy's or DeMarco Helms if they end up there.
Yeah.
So it's super exciting to see. So I'm so excited. There's some guys who are locked in and we're super excited to have back on this roster. And there's some guys who will be surprised cuts at the end and unfortunately not be on the active roster when it's all said and done.
Yeah. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up unless there's anything else you feel like we need to touch up on.
Uh, I don't think there is because most of it is just getting ready for the excitement and getting people ready for some of the position battles. I don't think we can totally predict it. We can say some of the things we're excited for, which there's a lot of things to be excited for. I know some fans aren't really too high on the preseason because they're like, oh, it's not a real game. But if you love the Falcons, you're going to watch the preseason. If you love the Falcons like we do, you're going to watch the preseason because it's absolutely fun to see and kind of try to predict who's going to make this roster.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait. So, guys, with that, we just kind of went over some of the news going around. We talked about matchups for the Bengals game we're looking forward to, as well as is it cool to have old school jerseys? But with that, let's root our boys in Friday night at 7:30. Rise up.
Rise up.
Again, this is Thon Ray. You guys can follow us at Falcons_drip on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Please make sure you subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do to get the alert for our next episode. If you guys enjoyed today, please leave us a review. It always helps us grow. Until then, see you next time. Rise up.